All right, this is Fritz Westover with Virtual Viticulture Academy, and I got another question from the field today from a grower in Maryland. Let me go ahead and start screen share here so you can see what that question was. And basically what I want everyone to see is that this question is about fungicides. It's a very common question that I get all the time, and I'd like you to hear my take on it. So the question comes from Brent in Maryland. He says, Fungicide Resistance Action Committee. This is a group that basically defines the mode of action that different fungicides is in, or FRAC group. And these different modes of actions of fungicides really are important to understand, because if we want to prevent a disease from developing resistance to a certain product, we need to rotate between different modes of action. Think of it as this. If you've got one mode of action that's punching in the face, eventually that pathogen is going to come up with a disease that is too short to be punched in the face, and it's going to survive, right? So you need one that's going to kick it in the shins after that and rotate through those, so on and so forth. So the question says, can you please go over the DMIs, that's one FRAC group, number 3, and the strobilurins, that's another FRAC group, number 11. And is one a systemic and one a surface protectant, or can systemic fungicides be different FRAC groups? I'm trying to get a little more understanding of each. So first of all, great question. Second of all, I'd like to just go ahead and dissect a little bit about what these two FRAC groups really are. So the FRAC group number 3, the Fungicide Resistance Action Committee group number 3, is a product that is a conventional spray product, not for organic growing. This is for a conventional spray program. And it is a product that will cover both powdery mildew and black rot. The strobilurin group is another mode of action group. So it works on the fungal infection or the pathogen in a different way than the number 3 group does. It is a number 11 group. And that number 11 group is also going to be active on powdery mildew and on black rot, but it's going to act on those in a different way. Also, the number 11 group has been shown to work on downy mildew, but we see resistance to by the downy mildew pathogen to the number 11 group. So we almost never use the group number 11 by itself for downy mildew. So let's focus on black rot and let's focus on powdery mildew. The idea is, if you're trying to prevent black rot in your vineyard, if you're in an area, let's say east of the Rockies in the United States, so Maryland, where you are, Brent, that's a problem you're going to see. We know we can prevent black rot by rotating through our different modes of action groups, those different FRAC groups, from the critical time around bloom of the grape till about cluster closure, bunch closure. And typically, each of these FRAC groups, you want to limit to no more than 2 uses per season, and you don't want to use them back to back because you don't want to overexpose the pathogen to the same mode of action. So one strategy would be around bloom or shortly after, to use either the number 3 or the number 11 group. And then on your next spray after that, switch to whichever one you didn't use on the last spray. So if you start off with a number 3 group, your next spray, you can rotate to a number 11 group. And then that would allow you to go back to the number 3 group after that, and then even go over again to the 11 group and do your 2 sprays of both of those products, but not back to back. It would be in a proper rotation. The other thing you can do to also further prevent any resistance development would be to add other products in the tank mix that might also help with resistance development. So for example, if you're trying to prevent powdery mildew resistance, you might add something like sulfur, if it's a sulfur tolerant variety, like most of your common vinifera grapes are. You add that to the tank for what we call cross protection. And of course, both of the products you mentioned are systemic products. I know that was another part of your question, Brent. So the systemic groups are various, but the number 3 and the number 11 that you mentioned are both systemic products, which means they don't just give surface protection when you spray them on the plant. They actually are absorbed into the vine tissue, and they can provide a longer lasting protection. Even if you have some rainfall, they're less likely to be washed off. So again, rotating the different FRAC groups when you're spraying is very important to prevent resistance development. You could also add other products to the tank, such as something like sulfur for powdery mildew, which doesn't have any resistance development known to date. So that's a really safe one to mix with your other FRAC groups, especially, considering if it's not too hot. We know we shouldn't spray sulfur if it's above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, or sulfur doesn't mix with other things. My point is not to tell you what you can mix in your tank. My point today was to answer your question about the difference between the DMI, which is the number 3 frat group, and the strobilurin, which is the number 11 group. So I hope that information helps you, and I appreciate you tuning in here. Hope to see you at a future live vineyard advising session. You guys all stay in touch and let me know what you think.